What's up, everyone? This is the Next Tape podcast episode 195 with Mikel
and Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So today's episode, we're gonna go deep inside on one topic today. So, Tanika, do you want to do the?
Yeah, we are going to be talking about the psychology of people who tend
Mhm.
to fall in love with inmates. I think more in particular, we're going to be kind of talking more about um, more people who fall in love with like murderers, that kind of
Mhm.
thing,
Mhm.
and why people do that or want to do that. So, do you know of any? Not necessarily with the people who fall in love with them, because I wouldn't expect you to know that. But do you know of any cases of serial killers or just murderers in general who've had inmates that have or not inmates, but people who fall in love with them
Well,
while in prison?
yeah, well, I heard stories that there are people who fall in love with uh criminals
Mhm,
uh in prison.
mhm.
So, but I have never known one or being around a person uh that was a criminal and you know that got
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
just
mean,
had to yeah.
the one that really sticks out to me
Mhm.
of murderers who've had
Mhm.
people fall in love with them while in prison, like Ted Bundy.
Uh-huh.
One of the Hillside Stranglers had
Yeah.
a situation like that as well.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, just even on a lower scale than people like that, there's a whole show created by the same people who created 90 Day Fiance. It's called Love After Lockup or Life After Lockup or Love
Mhm.
During Lockup.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
have a whole thing about like these people who fall in love with inmates.
Mhm.
Um, I'm guilty of watching it, of course, because it's entertainment, but
Mhm.
it's also dark because it's kind of like, mind you, those people that we're kind of dealing with are people who, on a much lower scale, people who've in lower scale than a murderer, but
All right.
it's, drugs or robberies or, stuff like that. But it's still kind of is like, why them? Like, what is it about them? And honestly, it's from watching that show, it is different across the board of the reasons why people tend to go for inmates. It could be because they're easily controlled or
Mhm.
they can't necessarily physically cheat on you, so, or you don't have to fully invest in a sense with an inmate because, well, they're in prison. So it's like an array of different things watching a show like that.
Mhm.
Um,
Y- Yeah, I think it's people being attracted to bad people, bad guys.
yeah,
You know?
there's bad guys and then there's bad guys.
Mhm.
There are guys that if in a different situation, they would have killed you,
Mhm.
So it's like I nothing against a person or women. And again, it's not just women, men too. But I have nothing against women necessarily wanting a quote unquote bad guy.
Uh-huh.
Um, because that just basically means that they're looking for someone with a little bit more edge to them, not someone who's necessarily a criminal or would, wouldn't miss an opportunity to have you be one of their victims. So it's that part that's so weird to me.
Right.
Um, but yeah, let's just get into, the episode. So
Okay. Yeah.
so the terminology of someone falling in love with an inmate, this is a word that's going to be hard for me to pronounce, but it's referred to as hybristophilia, I believe is how we pronounce that. and it's the phenomenon characterized by sexual interest and attraction to those who commit crimes. The term hybristophilia was coined by John Money in 1986 and is derived from the Greek word hubrisin, meaning to commit an outrage against someone, ultimately derived from hubris, and filio, meaning having a strong affinity or preference for, in this case, an inmate. In popular culture, this phenomenon is also known as the Bonnie and Clyde syndrome. Okay, so before I dig deeper into what we're actually talking about, I need to talk about the Bonnie and Clyde syndrome
Mm,
because the amount of times, especially in the show I was just talking about, Love After Lockup, the amount of times where people are like, you know, I'm just looking to be like Bonnie and Clyde. Y'all need to stop.
mm,
Bonnie and Clyde died. Bonnie and
yeah,
Clyde are dead.
yeah,
And the only reason they're dead is because Clyde turned on Bonnie and is like,
mm,
this shit has to stop. And d- they got shot up. That was because of Clyde. And the other part, Clyde was gay. Okay, enough now. Nothing against him being gay. I'm just trying to say
uh,
that's what you're trying to strive for, someone who really and truly is not attracted to you because he's gay.
well, a lot of people are attracted to gay people, so,
Um, yeah, that's a whole separate situation.
mm,
That's like you're missing the signs kind of thing.
mhm,
Also, they're closeted, which I think in a sense Clyde probably was. Like i- it's it's fairly believed, obviously can't be fully proven, but it's fairly believed that he at the very least was bisexual.
mhm,
But it's like y'all striving to be like this love in this love thing that Bonnie and Clyde had. They killed people. They killed people.
mm,
They they robbed people. And ultimately they died at the hands basically at the hands of Clyde. Come on now.
mm,
We need to stop that. Anyways, so manifestations of I'm not gonna keep saying this word, this is ridiculous. Okay. Hybristophilia. Okay, got it. Including the romanticization of criminals, especially serial killers. Many high profile criminals, particularly those who have committed atrocious crimes, receive fan mail. You heard me correctly, fan mail. What are we fanning over? The fact that they killed people? Women? I mean, 9 times out of 10, men who've killed women? Like,
mhm,
it's ridiculous. Like, they just recently coined a new victim to Bundy, just very recently. So now
yeah,
his I can't remember what his count is at now, but it's
yeah,
just that's who you're fanning over. But
yeah,
anyways,
we saw this, like, and, also in Jeffrey Dahmer as well, so, like, people, what's
especially,
that?
like,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
the show came out, it's like all of a
mhm,
sudden we're like, what, praising Dahmer? But again, it
yeah,
was like that when he first whatever, but
mhm,
it's yeah, again, and women were fanning over, quote unquote, over Dahmer. And again, it's like number one, you're not his type. Number two, he not only killed people, he also ate them. Like, are we serious?
mhm,
There's
yeah,
nothing to praise. Anyway, um, so yeah, fan mail in prison that is sometimes amorous or sexual, presumably because of this phenomenon. Women who write pen pal letters to or even pursue men who are incarcerated for a crime are sometimes referred to as a prison groupie or a serial killer groupie. In
mm,
some cases, admirers of many criminals have gone on to marry the object of their affections in prison, aka someone like Bundy, because he did get
mm,
married to his fangirl, or whatever you want to call her. She does snap out of it, though. I will give her that. She snapped out of it, but not before she had a child with him. So, Some speculations have
Uh,
been offered as to the cause of hybristophilia.
uh-huh.
Catherine Ramsland, who I actually just heard an interview with on last podcast on the left, if you're interested in listening to that. It's quite interesting. Um, who is a professor of forensic psychology at DeSales University, mentions that some of the women who have married or dated male serial killers have offered the following reasons. So here we go. Number one, some believe they can change a man as cruel and powerful as a serial killer. Ladies, we can't change. We're not that powerful. That is above our pay grade. Number two, others see the little boy that the killer once was and seek to nurture him. Number
Uh,
three, a few
uh,
hoped to share in the media spotlight or get a book or movie deal. Nope. Number four, and I think it's the final one, then there's the notion of the perfect boyfriend. She knows where he is at all times. I just mentioned that. And she knows he's thinking about her, or maybe the million other women he's writing. While she can claim that someone loves her, she does not have to endure the day to day issues involved in most relationships. There's
mm,
no laundry to do, no cooking for him, and no accountability to him. She can keep the fantasy charged up for a long time.
uh,
I think that's pretty spot on. Others offered reasons along the lines of some mental health experts have compared infatuation with killers to extreme forms of, I think it's fantasism? That basically like fantasy, I think.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like it's this dark fantasy that they're having.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I would say. That they having these dark fantasies, and yeah.
And again, there's nothing wrong with having a darker fantasy or wanting to do things a little more darker on the darker
Mm-hmm.
side, but you
Mm-hmm.
can do that in a safe way, consensually,
Mm-hmm.
with a person on the outside. You don't have to be with an inmate, but again, maybe those people don't want to have that necessarily on the outside. They don't want the physical aspect of it. They just want to sit in the fantasy of it. I don't know, but it does very much closely teeter to um those people that they're interested in because they also had dark fantasies. The difference is they actually went out there and did it.
Cross, yeah, they cross the line. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to kind of see like the parallels
Mm-hmm.
between the two, but they view such women as insecure females who cannot find love in normal ways, or as love avoidant females who seek romantic relationships that cannot be consummated. So maybe there's also you know, I think that's part of it too. Um, and maybe it's also because like those women don't necessarily want to be physical with anybody. Maybe there's also some form of sexual trauma. I don't know. And you know that if you're in the confines of a relationship or you're mainly over the phone, or if you are in person, you may not be able to touch that person or whatever,
Uh,
that you don't have to worry about that. There are definitely people out there that, are perfectly fine without being intimate.
uh, that's right.
Um, Psychologist Leon F. Zeltzer proposes that the condition could be related to the riskiness involved with dating a criminal, the desire to tame or fix them, and primitive instincts based on evolutionary psychology. In the latter theory, he mentions dominance is attractive as it would mean such men could protect women and their offspring, according to evolutionary history. So just in case no one's following this, they view these people
Mhm.
who kill other people as dominant, okay? And they can protect me and potentially any children that I have. Newsflash.
Huh.
No, they can't. They're in prison,
That doesn't
first of
make
all.
sense. Yeah.
Secondly, even if they weren't, you think for a second they're really gonna protect you because here's the deal.
Mm,
And I'm gonna use Bundy as an example because it's really the only one where we have a true example of this, besides like BTK, but I don't know if he has any fangirls. You can't convince me that man does. Anyway, Bundy was in a relationship during the majority of his crimes, and she had a daughter. Not with him, but she had a daughter, and they were on, I believe, 2020. I think she's also written a book, and she talked about the oddities of things that he would do, um, with her. So even though he may never have crossed the line with her, he did these weird things that would make anyone uncomfortable. It made her uncomfortable as well.
mm,
He was good with her daughter for the most part, but then let's not forget, then he may not have done what he was doing to her, what he was doing to other people, but he was doing it, then coming back home to her and her daughter.
mm.
So where's the protection? There is no protection. Like, I'm
No,
sorry, there's just none,
no.
you know? Um, like BTK again, like again, I don't think he has any fangirls. If he does, I have questions for any of you people, but he had a wife, he had kids, and it's like I
Mm,
can't imagine that dope being a protector at all. And not to mention he was killing children. So where is the protection? Where is it? Anyways,
ugh.
I'm preaching to the crier, I know at this point, but it's just like
Yeah,
I will just never understand it.
I just think a lot of people think like when it comes to like real life situations, they think like if you're around these types of killers, they'll feel protected, but
Mhm.
that's not the case all the time.
No.
Um, they'll probably protect you from any like you'll feel protected, but when you're alone with them, they'll they'll actually act on um like try to like murder you or try to abuse you or try to
Yeah.
like plot or etc. Like
Yeah.
alone. So
Exactly, because, I mean, they're able a lot of these people who look the kind of people I'm naming, like BTK or Bundy or maybe even Dahmer to an extent, these are people that could compartmentalize their lives.
mhm,
There was the darker sides of them that never touched the outside parts of them.
yeah,
So, yes, in those cases, maybe they wouldn't have hurt their family. I don't think for a second
yeah,
that BTK would have ever hurt his family,
yeah.
um, in that way, but it's like, still, you run the risk.
Mhm,
And then you
mhm,
have people like John fucking List, which one day I will do it. I think we are gonna maybe one day talk about family annihilators. I'll probably tap him onto that. But then you have people like him who is supposed to be a quote unquote protector,
mhm.
and he kills his entire freaking family
Right.
because he was jobless.
Mm,
And in his warped mind, thought that it was better to kill his family than have them live in a debt in debt. So
mhm.
he killed them, started his life over, remarried, until they finally found him and he was arrested. But I'm talking like it was like 20 years later. So, and his second wife never would have guessed that her husband was John List, man who killed his entire family. So again, explain to me, where is the safety? Because
Exactly.
I sure as
Yeah,
hell don't
I
see it.
agree. I agree.
So, um, okay, so I think I read through that. Uh, I read through that. Okay, hold on. Trying to find where I was here. Yep. So Seltzer says women today may consciously realize that it is unwise to date a serial killer, but they are nevertheless attracted to them. He stated, quote, As a therapist, I've encountered many women who bemoaned their vulnerability towards dominant men who, consciously, they recognized were all wrong for them. As
Uh,
evidence of a women's fantasy preference for dominant men, he refers to the book A Billion Wicked Thoughts. Um, what the world's largest experiment reveals about human desire. That's the entire title, by Ogi Ogus and
mhm.
Sai Gadam. Seltzer discusses Ogus and Gadam's argument that this fantasy is the dominant plot of most erotic or romantic books. So, kind of like maybe, I don't know if smut would be the proper thing to use, but maybe even in the trope of like 50 Shades of Grey, which
Yeah.
I'll talk about the differences between this and that. But so yeah,
You mean like in terms of like reading a book about it
in
or
terms of
reading
dominance, the
oh
difference of
like yeah,
dominance between the two
dominatrix
different
and
things. I'll talk about it in
yeah,
a second. I'll
yeah,
finish the paragraph.
yeah.
So the dominant plot, most erotic romantic books and movies written for women, but the fantasy always holds that this male dominance is conditional. It doesn't
Mhm.
really represent the man's innermost reality, which is interesting that he says that because that kind of ties in with what I'm going to say. He also says in reality, very few women are actually swayed by these primitive instincts in today's world. So the difference again that I want to iterate, which again I think I'm preaching to the choir, is dominance in the terms of a serial killer versus dominance of a person like Christian Grey in a fictional book is very different. If Christian Grey was a real person,
Mhm.
the similarity, the one similarity that I will say between that character and these real life serial murderers or murderers in general is the sadism. That's maybe
Mhm.
the only thing. But of
Mhm.
course, he's not committing crimes, right? Christian
Right.
Grey is in the book. He's just a dominant and
Mhm.
he wants a submissive in
Mhm.
the bedroom or whatever. And it's okay to have fantasies surrounding that, but also knowing that it's controlled and in a controllable environment. There are things that need to be respected, boundaries that need to be respected. It's a lifestyle, BDSM, not a crime. So it's and consent is absolutely huge
Yeah, yeah.
in
Yep.
that world,
Yep. No, yeah.
right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a very huge difference between reading some erotica and being turned on by that, and then wanting to date an inmate who's
Mhm.
killed people, sometimes multiple people. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, well, yeah, there is a huge difference. You're coming outside of uh consent. I mean,
I mean, consent's a little different than obviously you're not consenting to be murdered. I mean, actually, there have been people who've consented to being murdered. Um,
mhm,
that didn't that's a case that I can't talk about, but it happened in Germany. For anyone who's in the true crime world, you probably know what I'm talking about.
mhm,
Um, but y in most cases, I would say 99.9% of the time, no one's consenting to being murdered. So I use the word consent, though, in that world because that's an important factor in
mhm,
BDSM that, needs to always be reiterated.
mhm.
But, ye yeah, it's just I
Yeah.
don't know. It's ridiculous to me. I keep going back to it's just ridiculous to me because, again, when they also mention here, like, there's a deeper reality, um, to those quote unquote dominant figures in these erotica books or movies.
Mhm,
With Christian Grey, that was the case. He didn't just one day decide to be a dominant. Kinda maybe was ingrained in him because he was so out of control in all aspects of his childhood prior
mhm,
to being
mhm,
adopted by a rich
mhm,
ass family. So it's there's a deeper side to these people. Now, 9 times out of 10, that's also a similarity for these serial killers or murderers just generally, that some of them do have horrific childhoods. and this is how they get their anger out, and this is what they do. So that part of them is never changing. Then you have the scary aspects of people like Ted Bundy, whose childhood, for the most part, was uneventful. Yes, he found out that his father wasn't actually his father, but really and truly, otherwise, he had a decent childhood. So, you know, that's a whole separate conversation, when it comes to the brain makeup of serial killers and all of that. But, um, so yeah, this isn't I just I wouldn't find it fun to date an inmate, also knowing that that inmate killed people, potentially people who look like me,
Mhm.
because all of them tend to have a type.
Right.
So, anyways, Elizabeth Guran wrote that hybristophilia may be a result of an individual being the victim of abuse or having seeking behavior. A linkage was also made to the case of it being for the purpose of controlling fear, in which people consciously or unconsciously deny the threat in accordance with the extended parallel process model.
Mhm.
Social media uh, con- uh, contributions for an easier method of showcasing attraction to the criminal hybristophilia have also been discussed. A 2023 paper stated that, quote, if social media platforms, including TikTok, provide users with the ability to freely express themselves publicly and anonymously, then individuals wanting to showcase and share their affection and admiration for criminal offenders might opt to utilize these platforms for this purpose. And again, I feel like I mean, you're still walking, like, shaky ground doing that, but I feel like if people are going to talk about these abhorrent people in some weird affectionate way, that still to me, I question you, and I think you do need to go into therapy, but I do think that is even safer than getting involved with people,
Mhm.
getting again, there are some people that and hmm, it's rocky for me because I think of, like, the Menendez brothers, because I don't know if both of them are married, but I know one of them is, I think Eric, and even though I mean, listen, at the end of the day, they killed their parents. So at the end of the day, they are murderers, and we've talked about the Menendez brothers and how sticky of a situation that whole case is, but I still do have to question the woman who decided it was a good idea to marry Eric Menendez. While she also had a daughter who I think he adopted. I don't know the whole details with that, but it's just like, I still question your reasons, your why. Now,
Mhm.
there's also people who marry a murderer or a so-called murderer,
Mhm.
like the Memphis 3. One of them, I sorry guys, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head right now, but one of them, Damien, it was Damien. He got married to a woman who married him while he was in prison. The difference with Damien Eccles, though, is he was innocent. So it's like you have those
Um,
cases where it's like, well, he's not necessarily seen innocent in the
so
law, and, and some people don't think he's innocent, especially in
right.
Arkansas, but he is innocent. Him and the other two are innocent. They did
S
not kill those boys.
so I lied. I do
Mhm.
know a story. Do
Okay.
you know the Disney, actor named, Shay was it Shay is it Shay Jack? Let me just check that. Um, uh, is it Shay Jack? Is it Shay Jack? Oh, yeah, there we go, yeah, Shay Jackson. Do you know the Disney actor? She did a show called, let me just check. She used to be a child actor, and she did a show called, Disney show,
Mhm.
I'm looking for that Disney show right now. Oh my God. Jesse. Do you remember this show
Oh,
called
yes, yes.
Yes. And she actually
What's
was
her name?
sent Shay Jackson.
So it's not the main person, not Debbie.
She's not the main, she's like the little black girl.
Okay, I
The-
think I vaguely know who you're talking about, yeah. Is
Yeah.
I've only watched a few episodes of Debbie when it first came out. Or yeah, what you whatever you call
She
it.
yeah, she wrote stories to a uh like not real stories, but like basically write letters to
To an
this
inmate.
yeah, this inmate. And then basically she basically dated this inmate as soon as this inmate came out of jail,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
And they got a baby with each other. And then,
mhm,
there's like rumors of, abuse,
mhm,
et
mhm.
cetera, all that stuff. And then basically the man went back to jail for robbery.
Yeah, it
So,
happens. Like, there's,
yeah,
on that show that I was mentioning to you before, kinda similar to that, it's the one that pops into my head the most, but
yeah.
there are definitely other cases, in that show, and why that show gets very dark because of the realities
Hmm.
of the people who come out of prison and end up usually back in prison. So, there was a case of a woman, mind you, she was not a very likable character, she was the person on the outside, and you
Hmm.
do learn also, I wanna say this part too, you do learn that these people who are on the outside are
Hmm.
worse than the people that are inside,
Hmm.
9 times out of 10 on the show,
Hmm.
and I'm sure that kind of goes even beyond, these types of criminals that are usually on the show, but they, she met this person on the outside or sorry, on the inside. She, was planning her wedding and all of this, and they were gonna be together, blah, 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 blah. He eventually got out. I think they were together on the outside for like a year, and I think he ended up going back to prison because he assaulted her, and it was bad. Like, they did show pictures of her like, her face. It was bad, and it was like, I didn't like her as a person. I thought she was absolutely abhorrent. I thought she was worse
Hmm.
than him until I found out that part, and I'm like, you know, obviously I'm human, so I'm like, "That's horrible." Like, that is absolutely horrible. Like, and this is what happens. And honestly, I'm gonna say this to people who may be interested in dating an inmate or are dating an inmate, and
Hmm.
you're waiting for that inmate to get out of prison. They do not need a girlfriend on the outside. They need one on the inside because who's paying their books? But they do not need one on the outside.
Hmm.
They need to focus on them. They need to focus on getting a job. They need to focus on getting their documents together. They need to focus on their mental health. That's what they need to focus on. But I think the problem is that these people who come out from being inside and have to reacclimate to the outside world
Hmm.
while being in a relationship with somebody else,
Hmm.
they get overwhelmed.
Hmm.
It's not an excuse, mind you, for people who do that, who do eventually decide, today's the day that I'm going to abuse my partner. But it's an explanation as to see the sides because as me as a person watching these types of shows, I'm like, that person's gonna pop off because they are overwhelmed. And it's usually the men, you can tell the men are really overwhelmed. The women that are coming from the inside and coming back out, they don't put up with it. They're just like, I know what, today's not the day and I don't want to deal with this. I'm gonna dip. And they do. Maybe sometimes they might write fuck off in a desk,
Hmm.
but that's about it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not remembering everybody, but I definitely feel like the women tend to be like, "I'm not going back to prison." So I'm gonna
Yeah.
dip before that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But some notable cases, we kind of talked about this one, and maybe a few of the others, but okay. Let me just bring back up my phone. Okay, so yeah, these notable cases. Some of them we've talked about, but
Mm,
we're not gonna dive too deeply on either one of these, but we're
mhm,
gonna talk about some of them. So, the first one, who I've been talking about as an example throughout, Bundy. So, one of the most infamous examples of hybristophilia is a large number of women attracted to Ted Bundy after his arrest. Listen, people
mm,
believed, how could Bundy be a serial killer? He's so attractive and blah, 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 and he's well established and he's educated. That made him
mhm,
scarier. That made Bundy
mhm,
scarier because he didn't, quote unquote, fit the profile of a murderer or what people thought a murderer should look like.
mhm, mhm.
And he's kind of one of the first people to kind of show that,
Right.
that serial killers can look like him. I personally don't think he was good looking. I don't understand, but whatever. Whatever. And it's not because he's a serial killer, I just don't see it. Anyways,
Mhm,
he often drew scores of women at the jammed courtrooms of his trials each day. Bundy allegedly received hundreds of love letters from women while he was incarcerated and
and
married a woman named Carol Ann Boone, this crazy woman, whom he had met while both were working in the state of Washington. So they did know each other outside of this. He proposed to her in the middle of proceedings. That is true. You can probably find it on YouTube or something, because there are scenes from this trial that you can find on YouTube, because I've done it.
mhm,
For reasons I'll explain in a second. So, yeah, he proposed to her in the middle of proceedings while Boone was on the witness stand. He is the person who interrogated her because he acted in his own defense because of course he did, because he's a narcissist. Anyways, Boone gave birth to a daughter whom it was believed Bundy had fathered. They don't know how, but it is suspected that they may have had sex in like a janitor's closet or something while he was in prison.
mhm,
So, um, the reason that I know you can search clips of the entire trial, obviously it was the 70s, but you can find clips of the trial, is one of the things that people in the true crime world kind of know, and if you don't know, you're welcome, is you can see very fast snippet of the Ted Bundy that his victim saw while he was at the trial. I believe he was interrogating somebody. I don't know who it was. I can't remember who it was, but he was interrogating somebody that somebody pissed him off, and you saw the darkness in his eyes. It was a very split second. Blink and you miss it, but it was there.
mhm,
And it's terrifying. So again,
mhm,
this is what people are falling in love with, is this guy who, yeah. Anyways, moving on to the next one, Jeffrey
mhm.
Dahmer, a serial killer who is said to have had a bunch of women sending him letters, money, and other gifts during his time in
Right.
prison, despite being a gay man and a cannibal, as I pointed out as well. Um, A, he ain't interested in you, and B, he ate people. But hey, whatever. We need help.
Mm,
Us as a human race needs
mhm.
help.
Yeah, yeah, no, like, you're right, cause like, a lot of people I don't know, I wouldn't I
I wouldn't.
don't know, like, people I just don't know.
I don't get
I don't know
it.
why people just indulge into, like, wanting a
No.
criminal as,
And
you know.
again, listen, I know, and this unfortunately, this conversation definitely paints a negative light on indulging in true crime information, especially when the majority of people who do that is women. Um, but we don't do that for this purpose. We do it so that I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. We do it because we want to educate ourselves on what we need to do to protect ourselves. Um, we don't want the victims of these people being in vain. We want to, at the very least, learn from the times or what wasn't done or what was done or whatever it may be, and know how to protect ourselves because they unfortunately didn't get the respects of their lives being worth something. So, and again, that's not to say that people, any of these women of like Bundy, for example, obviously Dahmer's a little different because he didn't kill women, but um, we'll say the women for now, but not to say that they did anything wrong, not at all. Because 9 times out of 10, this man who women fawned over in his life once he was captured, would trick women into helping him in order to kill them. He would pretend he had a broken arm and couldn't, like, fix something with his car. And, of course, women being, natural caregivers or wanting to help somebody,
Yeah,
um
that's the right, yeah, that's a
yeah,
good point.
and got sucked into his web,
Mhm,
and, like, that's what hurts, and
mhm,
to kind of see these people fawning over that. He killed children, or at least a child. I don't know if he killed another child, but he killed a well, no, he killed a 12-year-old, and I believe he also killed a 14 or 15-year-old as well. He killed children. Explain to me
mm,
how Bundy is so goddamn attractive.
right,
And let's go to the next guy because he will also let's go to the next guy. I'll talk about him a little more too. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, who killed 13 people and had more than a passing interest in Satanism,
mhm,
well, he was a Satanist, had fans who would write him letters and pay him visits. This included Doreen, I think it's Leoy, who married him. I didn't know that. In California's San Quentin State Prison on October 3rd, 1996. Ew.
mm,
Did she have to kiss him? Because the man had stinky breath. He literally was called Richard, whatever the terminology when you have bad breath, like whatever. He had
mm,
halitosis. His teeth were
mm,
rotting out of his mouth. Ew. Okay, let me continue. However, Loy eventually broke ties with Ramirez in 2009 after DNA confirmed he had raped and murdered 9-year-old Mei Lung, or yeah, Lung, though it seems she never legally filed for divorce. So let me reiterate this. You think he only raped one 9-year-old child? No, no, no,
mhm,
no. He raped quite a bit of children. Um, this part is not always readily known in his when they talk about, like, his murders, his rapes were not talked about. I will say this, if you want the background on everything this monster did, there is a documentary on Netflix that came out a little while ago that
mhm,
really went into all of this and actually talked to one of his child victims, and he did this multiple times. If he wasn't killing, he was raping children.
mm,
So and he would kill elderly people, and he didn't there was no rhyme or reason to this guy's crimes.
mhm,
He he would just do it because he wanted to, because he wanted into your house or whatever it is. He terrorized California in the '80s for
right,
however long that he was going for. So this guy is attractive, and the if I mean, listen, I hate to say this, but I'll be factual. Was he good looking when he kept his mouth closed? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can understand. He's decent looking, but the minute that man opens his mouth, it's like, oh, Jesus. Like, literally,
Mhm.
his teeth were falling out. His oral hygiene, non-existent. So,
Yeah.
it's that was something that the victims would talk about is how bad he smelled. But
Right.
apparently, he's attractive. Okay, great. Nice to know. Explain it to me. I don't this murders and the rapes aside, him on the outside with that being a feature of him, you would never find him attractive. So because he's this Satanist who killed people, oh, he's attractive? The is wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I could go
Um,
off about
yeah,
Richard
yeah,
Ramirez, but I'm not.
yeah. I don't know. And I say people because yes, yeah, like majority of the women basically do write these letters, but it's not rare that men do write these letters to,
Oh, yeah,
a lot of
men are
criminals too
also
as well too. So,
yeah. I
but
think the
yeah,
difference is that you don't see the majority of murderers/serial murderers
yeah,
are men.
hmm
Not to say there aren't women, but there are mainly men. Um, so pickings are slim if a man wants to write a murderer who's a female. There's not
yeah,
many.
yeah,
It's just statistics. But again, like if you
uh,
watch like a Love After Lockup or Life After Lockup or Love During Lockup, those iterations, yeah, it's a pretty balanced situation where you have women and men on the outside writing people on the inside, and
uh,
usually of the opposite sex. Um, the people of the same sex are also getting involved with inmates. That's been a feature as well. So
mm,
it's like I I don't get it,
yeah, yeah,
especially when they're repeat offenders. We'll never understand it in those
mm,
cases. Um, Another example is cult leader, orchestrator Charles Manson's groupies are also an example. So I'm guessing people after he was incarcerated, not the women in the quote unquote family. That's a whole other that's a psychology that I do not want to enter into.
uh-huh,
Because yikes.
hmm
Um, but again, it's like what what in God's green earth is attractive about Charles Manson? Because then to kind of talk about Charles Manson for a second, it goes against the grain of why people are attracted to murderers. Because he didn't actually commit a single murder. He had other people commit the murders.
yeah,
But he would also deny to the day of his death that he didn't kill anybody.
uh-huh,
And not only that, he would have women doing his dirty work. So, where's the dominance? Where's the attractiveness? Not to mention
uh-huh,
he's disgusting. I don't find him at all attractive, but
uh-huh, uh-huh,
yeah, think he's ugly as hell, but
uh,
well, you know what? Let me take that back. He was good looking when he was clean shaven. No hair, the hair wasn't the way it was, no beard. I understood. But
yeah,
after that,
uh,
as where he's hippie and no, no thank you. And he's a racist. Like, just
yeah,
I don't get it.
yeah. No, I'll never get it. It goes in general, like everybody, like who pen writes and writes criminal side. I don't get it. So
Yeah.
that's yeah, yeah. That's, I don't know.
I do wanna talk about one other person because, again, this is a slightly different kind of situation, but we did kinda talk about the Menendez brothers really quickly. I totally forgot that I had gotten this information, but I don't even know if you actually finished watching the 2nd season of Monster, but, um, we did kinda talk about it a little bit, though. Was one of the people who a woman, an older woman, British woman,
Uh-huh,
who was talking to Lyle Menendez during that time, like, um, prior to his trial, um, or I think prior to the 2nd trial, they, she was writing or would release, tapes of her conversations with Lyle Menendez, where he would say a lot of crazy things. Um, we're not talking so much about that. Um, but more so than anything, the rumor was that she was actually falling in love with Lyle or was somewhat attracted to Lyle.
Mm,
And there's the double aspects of this where it's like, okay, despite how people, but especially back then, because people definitely were like, he's a depraved murderer, you know. It's not like now where we have a little bit more understanding. Um, but he was a murderer. He was also what, 22? She was in her 40s, I believe, or if not 50s. So it was also like that part of it as well. But her name was Norma,
right.
and she had like these long, in-depth conversations with him about all kinds of different things, I believe, but especially the murders.
Mhm,
So just a little bit about her, because I think this is like a double whammy of, okay, yeah, you released these tapes, but he also trusted you, which is like you kind of exploited the situation for whatever reason that may have been. And I think she's gross, honestly. Not so much if I'm thinking of the lens of there's some I think they've served their time. It's not about that. It's about the fact that she really used everything to have him trust her just to exploit him. And in any case, like that's really disgusting in my book, if
mm,
that makes sense.
yeah.
So, anyways, a little bit about her. So, Norma, she lived in Toluca, California, and she was a writer. She published a small monthly newspaper called Mind's Eye, which was circulated in local jails and state prisons. Her friendship with Lyle began in 1990. So, I'm not even sure if the first trial had even happened at that point. She talked to him on the phone and even visited him at the Los Angeles County Jail. Lyle trusted her enough to open up about his innermost thoughts and feelings. From 1991 to 1994, Norma recorded her conversations with him. She claimed that Lyle had given his permission for her to record their chats. Mind you, the conversations are already being recorded because he's in prison. And then he mentioned doing a book together. However, the tapes were leaked before his second trial, causing chaos in the legal proceedings. The tapes were eventually used to write a book called The Private Diary of Lyle Menendez in his own in his own voice. The book was a collaborative effort between Norma and Mike Walker. The blurb claims to give readers an, quote, intimate, sensational peek into Lyle's mind as he confides in a middle aged single mother. It even suggests that Norma was ensnared by Lyle, who it claims said, everybody who meets me loves me. That's apparently what he said. But, yeah, okay. Um, whether that's true, I don't know.
Right.
Um, and I did also talk about very, very briefly, but I did get some information too about this. The woman who got involved with one of the Hillside Stranglers. So a little bit about her. Her name is Veronica Copton.
Mhm,
She's disgusting. This is, I think, one of the worst cases of what women will do
mm,
for these type of people. Get prepared, buckle up, because this is a lot. The woman most notably involved with Kenneth Bianchi, which was one of the Hillside Stranglers, was Veronica Compton. While he was in prison, Compton became his pen pal and conspired with him in a plan to help him get away with murder.
mm,
So, about that and about who this person is. So, Compton was an aspiring actress and playwright who started a relationship with Bianchi through letters after he was jailed. While corresponding with him, she developed an elaborate scheme to prove Bianchi was innocent. The plan involved her traveling to Bellingham, Washington, which was where he was imprisoned, because in case no one knows the full story here of these two, the Hillside Stranglers, because there's two of them, it was an uncle and a nephew. So I can't remember the uncle's name. I don't really care. And then Kenneth Bianchi, who's the nephew. He lived in California I don't know if he lived with his uncle, but they lived in California together. They committed majority of the crimes together in Los Angeles. And then Kenneth Bianchi ended up moving to Washington, um, and, continued crimes there. And one of the crimes, I don't know if he did more than one, but he did one crime where he killed 2 women, and he was pretty much found out pretty quickly, and that's why he was jailed in Washington, in case no one knows the story. But anyways,
Mhm.
um, so yeah, traveling to Bellingham, Washington, killing a woman in the style of the Hillside Strangler. So she killed a person, y'all. She killed somebody, and planting Bianchi's semen at the scene. How in the Oh, no, I'll tell you how. He gave her a sample of his semen in the mail. That is
Wow.
what happened, so that
Wow.
she could
That's
plant
crazy.
his DNA at the scene.
Hmm.
Yeah. After receiving a sample from Bianchi, she lured a 26-year-old woman to a motel in Bellingham. Compton tried to strangle the woman with a clothesline, but the victim was able to fight back and escape. So she didn't actually kill her. Thank God. I forgot about that because I'm like, wait a minute, she didn't kill her. No, she didn't. She didn't kill us. Good. But she sure as hell tried.
Mm.
Compton fled to the state, but was quickly arrested. She
Mhm.
sent a tape to authorities in Bellingham claiming the wrong man was in jail and indicating that the real killer was still at large. No, try again.
Mm.
Compton was convicted of first-degree attempted murder and sentenced to life in prison, though she was eventually paroled in 2003. I think that was a bad idea. Um, so yeah, just okay, so I do have the uncle's name here. Like I did talk a little bit about the crime that they committed, Kenneth Bianchi and his uncle Angelo Bruno,
Uh-huh.
but I will just quickly talk about it very quick because I have it here. So Kenneth Bianchi was one of the 2 notorious hillside stranglers who terrorized Los Angeles in the late 1970s, along with his cousin. So I said uncle, sorry guys, cousin, Angelo Bruno Jr. Bianchi murdered 10 young women in California between 1977 and 1978. That's
Oh,
10 women in a year, y'all.
wow.
And like their murders are disgusting. It's disgusting. Um, After the murders stopped in Los Angeles, Bianchi moved to Washington State, where he raped and killed 2 more women in 1979. His arrest was with for those crimes is what ultimately connected him to the Hillside Strangler case. To avoid the death penalty,
Uh-huh.
Bianchi took a plea deal and testified against his cousin, implicating Bruno in the LA murders. Despite his testimony, Bianchi attempted to sabotage the prosecution's case throughout Bruno's trial. Let's not also forget, for those who know, he also tried to show he was insane in order to be able to say that he was insane at the time of his crimes and saying that he had a personality inside of him. It was all fake. Bianchi was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. He was recently denied parole in 2025. This fucker's still alive. I thought he was dead. I know
Mm.
Angelo Bruno is dead because he was older. I'm shocked that Kenneth Bianchi is still alive. But anyways,
Mhm.
that that is it.
All right.
That is the episode.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So
I have.
the
Oh,
oh no, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I have nothing else to say. I said what I have to say, but
Yeah.
interesting stuff. That
Mhm.
um that a lot of people would do stuff like that and send pen letters to criminals to satisfy their fantasies, or sometimes either actually doing it, and it goes sometimes either too far, or
Like
sometimes that,
Veronica Compton.
yeah, or
Yeah.
yes, or sometimes they regret it. So,
Yeah, I don't know if
uh,
that woman ever regretted it. Because the
uh,
thing with Veronica Compton, for example,
uh,
is Kenneth Bianchi wasn't the first inmate she's spoken to.
uh,
Infamous inmate that she
uh,
had spoken to. She has spoken to other
uh,
people as well. But Kenneth Bianchi was the one that did her in. So
yeah, I mean, like, I mean, not just this story, like, I mean,
No,
in
no, no, I'm
general.
just saying as an
General.
example.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just kind of like,
yeah.
that's a person who was involved with multiple different people, and then you decide for whatever reason to say, "Oh, you have the wrong guy." Like, where did you think that was gonna go?
Mhm.
They had his DNA.
Yeah,
They knew it was him. He
yeah,
admitted it. Like,
yeah.
what are you doing? And for what? And then to get him out of prison, girl, he's gonna just dip out. Either he's gonna kill you or he's gonna dip out and you'll never
Right,
see him again.
right.
'Cause he was I don't know if he was married, but he definitely had a child with somebody. He
Mm,
probably would try to get to his child or try to get to her. People are crazy, I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah,
Anyways.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Anyways, we'll be
But
back next
yeah,
week with
yep,
another one.
definitely. Yep, definitely. Alright.
Alright.
Later, guys.
Bye. If you liked what you heard with our podcast, you can head on over to our website, which is solo.to/next take podcast. There you can get any of the links to any of our social media, which is Facebook, Instagram at Next Take Podcast, and Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Next Take Pod. You can also find links to our Reddit page and many other things, I'm sure. Can't remember all the top of my head. You can also email us at mikeltanyka@gmail.com. There you can send us any inquiries that you have, any questions, or also any episode ideas. And if you do have episode ideas, just make sure you put in the subject line episode ideas, and we'll add it to our list. If you also liked us, you can like us, rate us, follow us on any of your favorite podcast apps. You can rate us, however, on Spotify and Apple Podcast. We would greatly appreciate that. And we'll also move forward and share or spot a light on those who give us 5-star ratings in the future. That is it for us. We'll see you next time for the episode.